Most people have heard of or played the sport football. As a matter of fact, almost 37% of adults said it was their favorite sport to watch, making it the most popular. This next clip is of my dad and some of his football experience.
I do have some football experience. I played about 5 years in college at Michigan Tech. And before that, 4 years in high school in Nagani. And even before that, 2 years in middle school, we played tackle. So altogether about 11 years of contact football.
To start with, are you worried as you prepare maybe to sit down in front of the TV on Super Bowl Sunday? Maybe you won't watch it. Are you concerned about it?
Well, yes, thank you, Christian. I stopped watching football about 5 years ago because I just couldn't get myself to watch it. As a physician and a brain expert, in every play of football, there is a blow to the head. In fact, a paper recently came out from Stanford University that showed that in just one game of football, a player is exposed to about 50 to 60 violent blows to the head. And some of those blows are like a car traveling at 30 miles an hour, slamming into a brick wall.
Here's what my dad had to say after watching that clip from CNN and Dr. Omalu.
In college, I played cornerback and free safety. So there was a lot of contact in that position. And our defense wasn't necessarily that good. So quite a few tackles were made from the safety position. In high school, I played a defensive back and quarterback. And while I didn't have to tackle that much on defense, I did take some nasty hits as a quarterback in high school, that's for sure. I experienced quite a few injuries in my sports playing days. I broke my nose at least twice. I broke the small bone in my lower leg. I broke both bones in my left arm, and I broke my wrist. In addition to that, I had stitches in my chin and in my hand. And specifically with regard, muscle pulls, lots of muscle pulls, quite a few joint injuries. But specifically with regard to head injuries, I had quite a few experiences. I remember once in high school, I was playing quarterback. A guy jumped right over the center, and I took a hit head to head. And I remember sitting on the ground, and I couldn't see. And I felt like it was around 10 seconds or so. I couldn't see. My eyes were open, but I couldn't see anything. And I remember feeling rushed to get back to the huddle. And I was afraid people in the stands and even my teammates would wonder why I was sitting there, but I just couldn't see. Eventually, when some blurry vision started coming back, I got up and was able to get back in the huddle and keep playing. I remember in college, it was actually in a scrimmage. A friend of mine was playing quarterback and I was on defense, and he was heading towards the sidelines. But instead of going out of bounds, he decided that he was going to cut it up and come right into me. And so we had quite a collision. And I remember kind of going sideways. I didn't win, but I didn't lose. But I remember it being quite a hit that I had to shake off for a little while. But a lot of hits like that.
Kevin Drake spent a lot of time playing football throughout his years. He played in college, the NFL, and later in Europe. Recently, talking with Neuroscience 2016, Drake discusses having over 10 documented concussions and the toll that those have taken on his life later after football. Here are some of the symptoms that he explains having on a day-to-day basis. When talking to my dad about the symptoms Kevin Drake mentioned, he explained to me how some of those hit home for him as well.
So some of the symptoms that you mentioned do sound familiar. First of all, I have a few joints that I have issues with. My ankles and knees make a lot of noise. Sometimes I can feel almost like a grinding feeling sometimes. My knees really bother me if I try to play basketball, to the point where I may have to stop soon. My shoulder is really bad, but that's mostly because of nerve damage. I've got some nerve impingement in my neck, and that very well could be a result of a lot of the abuse I gave it during football. So my right arm often goes numb, and my shoulder is sore, and it's because of nerve damage. With my head, I have had some experience with anxiety and depression. It was primarily right after a car accident I had. So even though the doctors tell me that can be a normal response sometimes to trauma, like a car accident, I do wonder if maybe I was a little more prone to that kind of response than others were. So I can't say for sure, but when people say anxiety or depression could be a symptom of a lot of head injuries, I have had some of those symptoms.
One of the few things that can scare a football player are the three simple letters, CTE.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a neurodegenerative brain disease typically found in people who have suffered repeated hits to the head. The repeated blows shake the brain and cause the buildup of tau proteins, which hold together microtubules in the brain cell's transport system. Tau protein buildup can gradually disable neural pathways and cause memory loss, dementia, and ultimately kill brain cells over time. 99% of NFL players included in the study were diagnosed with CTE, while 91% of college football players had the same disease.
That's right. Last month, prosecutors and state police ruled Aaron Hernandez's death a suicide.
In a recent Netflix documentary, Aaron Hernandez was accused of murder. But as the film goes on, we later uncover things that could have led to these actions due to his incredible football career.
According to Dr. Ann McKee, a neuropathologist who directs research of chronic traumatic encephalopathy at Boston University, said her research team discovered Hernandez had stage 3 CTE and that they had never seen such severe damage in a brain at his age.
The documentary ends by finding out Aaron had the worst case of CTE for anyone his age, stage 3 out of 4. Symptoms of CTE can cause cognitive impairments, memory loss, depression, and some people even become aggressive or impulsive, which can explain why Aaron lashed out in a way that he did. An article from SportsRec 2018 mentions how coaches and players often operate under a common code of toughness and the differences between being hurt and injured. Now, I can understand the competitive mentality these coaches have when teaching their young players what it means to be tough. I just don't think the coaches know what consequences may come later in life. So after all this, I am still left with the question as to why. Why do we still watch? What causes young boys to hang posters of their favorite players on their walls? Why do so many people tune in every weekend to watch this violent and dangerous sport? I can't help but think that people don't know. They just don't know about all the dangers and risks that come within the sport. All the dads that don't know that they could be mentally ill after playing so many years. Or maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe the dangers and risks in that aspect of the game bring so many people to watch every weekend, and how every snap of the football can lead to another injury, another big hit. And that's what the people want to see. That's why this sport is so popular.